I thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Nathan Brenner, and I think I have the greatest honor in the room. I got to be Levi's neighbor from the day he was born until he left this world in 2008. First off, I think it's important just to congratulate everybody who's nominated in this category today and all the other categories. It's quite an accomplishment. I can't imagine the time and the hours that went into place to get here today. The only one I can speak to is Levi's time and who he was as a person. And I take to heart your words about it's going to be hard. I'll probably joke up a little bit, but that's the only way I can talk about Levi. I have a big brother, but I always wanted a little brother. I'm staring at Bo right now because when he was born, I was like, ha, a little brother, this is great. And Levi came along just a year later, and I was like, two little brothers. This is really great. And as Julie's kind of chuckling there, she'd see this kid come up to her house all the time. It's like, it's Nathan again. Wants to play with his pretend little brothers. And well, obviously you can tell I'm 5'9" and maybe a smidge. They weren't little brothers for very long. And then along came Chase. I'm not going to forget him, and I do that a lot. But he's quite a bit younger. Levi was about 10 years younger than me, so I had an advantage of watching with a little bit of distance in terms of his accomplishments. And it just struck me when I listened to the other testimonials today at how success was earned at every level. And for Levi, though, to be honest with you, it didn't come as easy. He had to work harder, I thought, than most of the other folks that I knew that had success at every level. I got to coach him in Pee Wee wrestling. And at first, he was not a very good wrestler. He wasn't. His brother Bo was, and he knows that. But it didn't matter, because for Levi, everything was about the work, the time that he would put in, and he would put in the time for success at every level. As a senior in high school, he was a 3-time state champ. Football, wrestling, and steer wrestling. But that wasn't enough. And for him, it was always the next thing. What was going to come next? And as I think about those things that came next, it wasn't just about the success next. It was about who he was when he was succeeding. I've met people from all over this country. I get to travel around and watch my son do these fun things. And if you mention steer wrestling in North Dakota, Levi Wisness' name comes up. And I said, yeah, I got to live a mile away from him. And that was an honor, and it was a privilege. I struggled for a theme today. I think things should have a theme so they flow and people can understand what you're trying to convey. And it really just came down to character. This morning when I woke up, it was 31 below zero. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to get in the pickup and drive to Medora. But it was an easy decision because I guarantee you that thought wouldn't even have crossed Levi's mind. Not once. The most poignant thing I can say about Levi is that there's certain days when you can remember everything about that day. And when Levi left this earth, I can take you to the spot where I was standing when I heard, and I can tell you and recount for you every event of that day. And that was because of his character, about who he was. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Clay Bomback. I'm honored to speak on behalf of a true friend to myself and everyone that knew him, Levi Wisness. Growing up with Levi, life was always exciting. Levi was not afraid to try or take on new adventures. He had such a positive outlook on life and brought out the best in others. He was very active, to say the least. He was a member of 4-H Club, close up and a leading officer in the FFA. He wrestled for the Wofford City Wolves, was a multiple-time state place winner. His senior year, he had fans in the Bismarck Civic Center on the edge of their seat, wrestling in a hard-fought match with so much heart and determination in the semifinals, and then went on to beat a wrestler in the finals that he had not beat before to come out and win a state title. You could always find Levi on the side of the mat pushing teammates to perform their best. Levi was also captain of the football team and led the Wolves to a state championship his senior year. Levi set high expectations for himself, and there was nothing that was unattainable. If something wasn't going right for Levi, he went back to the practice pen and worked hard to improve. Each week, Levi and area Cowboys met up at Willard and Craig Keeson's roping arena in Blue Buttes, where we all had a great time roping and throwing steers. Stock contractor Mike Peterson, he would always call on the Wisness boys each spring to break in a fresh pen of steers. It wasn't an easy job, but he could always count on them to get the job done. Levi and I were practicing at a bulldogging school put on by Brian Fulton in Wofford City. We were just having a blast, throwing one steer and then another and another and another. Well, it happened to be the same day as prom. We were late showing up for dinner, and needless to say, our prom dates were not happy. From a young age, Levi loved rodeo and the adrenaline rush that came with it. He started out riding sheep, then steers, and had dreams of becoming a world champion bull rider. He realized that he was too big for bulls, and then he discovered his favorite event, steer wrestling, and he was a natural. He even got me excited to try it. I managed to throw a steer fast enough to win a haze at a rodeo off his horse, and his father, Milo, was there for the haze. Levi ran out, picked me up, grabbed me by the shirt collar covered in the steer's phlegm. He said, "That's what you want to see. That's how you bulldog." He was excited for as much for my run than I was. Levi worked all the timed events in high school. He was fast, confident, and consistent at swinging a rope, tying calves, turning, and throwing steers. Levi was the North Dakota steer wrestling champion and qualified for nationals and team roping. He was also the reserve all-around cowboy. Heading off to college, Levi chose to follow his older brother's Bo footsteps as they shared a passion for rodeo. Bo's talent and success prompted Levi to work harder in life to be as great as he was. Levi looked up to Bo and loved to challenge him in absolutely anything and everything. Bo is a very decorated cowboy, winning many state titles in wrestling, football, and each of his rodeo events. He won the high school national final steer wrestling title, while Levi turned around and went on to win the collegiate national final steer wrestling title while attending the University of Wyoming in 2003. He earned a bachelor's degree in ag business with plans to return to the ranch one day. After attending church one Sunday, Levi was traveling back to college with Wesley Lapel. They were on their way to pick up Jessica Bilodeau. They noticed an ATV overturned in a snow-covered ditch by Partial. Levi abruptly pulled the truck in the ditch, turned around, and ran toward the ATV. They quickly pulled that ATV off a 13-year-old boy who was pinned underneath. The paramedics and doctors said that boy just had a short time left to live and was saved. This is just one of his many heroic acts that he performed, and that's just what Levi did. Rodeo fans from all over were proud of Levi's success, putting Keene, North Dakota on the map in the PRCA. Levi was a true competitor. He was just as happy and excited for the next guy if they had a faster run than his. The entire rodeo community was considered family to Levi. His partners enjoyed traveling with him and his fun, positive, and humble personality. They also had to allow for extra time because he loved to visit with everyone, and he introduced himself to new friends that he met along the way. If you walked by a crowd with Levi, his persona always seemed to draw the girls' attention. And if you met Levi in passing, he had a great big smile with his hand out to welcome you. During the summer of 2007, Levi was very devastated when his younger brother Chase was a buckled passenger in the car accident, which left him paralyzed from the chest down. Levi wanted more than anything to take that burden in his brother's place. At the time, Chase just finished up his sophomore year of high school and was a standout cowboy and athlete as well. Watching Chase persevere over life's setback has been such a positive inspiration to everyone. Levi won the PRCA Badlands Circuit in 2004, was sitting sixth in the world in 2007 on the road to the NFR when a developing brain tumor caused him unbearable pain that halted him from competing. Before he went in for surgery, he reassured me that he just had too much Norwegian in him, and the surgeon was going to go in and remove some Norwegian. He said he was going to come out of surgery even smarter than he already was. We both laughed as he was 100% Norwegian. Levi took the setback in stride and fought very hard to get back to good health. He was working on his mentor Brian Fulton's ranch in South Dakota recovering and was looking forward to get back on the rodeo trail. It amazed me to see how great Levi was doing when he showed up to surprise everyone at a friend's wedding. Friends and family were very important to Levi, and he made time for everyone. We were all in shock and disbelief the following morning when we received the news that the good Lord welcomed Levi home to heaven as he laid down to rest that night, just 27 years old in 2008. The community had an unbelievable farewell to our dear friend. The gymnasium was packed the day of his funeral, and the wagon train of cowboys that followed him on horseback to his final resting place stretched for a country mile. The North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame is a place that can continue to share the life and impact that Levi had on others for generations to come. Long live the legacy of a true cowboy and a true friend, Levi Wisness, and long live cowboys. Thanks, God bless.
Hello, my name is Rusty Christophersen. I got to go to high school and travel with Bo and Levi for a couple years there, and I don't know if I ever seen anybody that had a better attitude and was always just smiling and everything, and you don't have to talk about all the stuff he won and everything. It was more of the person he was. I remember one time he said, "I'm not going to go next weekend," and I was doing the entering, and I entered him, and I called him a couple days later, and I said, "Well, you're going," and he said, "What'd you do that for?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't going to let Bo haze for us," and that weekend he won one rodeo and he placed at the other rodeo, and we were walking back to the trailer, and I looked at him, I said, damn, now I wished I wouldn't have entered you. And he laughed and we laughed, but like I said, I never met anybody that was more happy to see somebody else win. And last night I was talking to Dusty Hossauer. He said, you know, I said, the day that Levi passed away, he said, I won Cheyenne. And he said, I walked back to my pickup, and he said, I had a missed call, and the first voicemail was from Levi Wisness. And he said, congratulating him on the win. And he said, I was going to call him the next day. Well, didn't happen, but that's just the way Levi was, just the first person to congratulate and to be happy for somebody else, you know. And but that's, I don't have to talk about everything that he won and did, and but that's just who Levi was, and I'm proud to travel with him and call him my friend.
I'm Tyler Haugen. I got to know Levi when he was in college, and there afterwards we rodeoed together, spent a lot of miles together. He crashed on my couch a fair amount too. I won't go into all of his accolades, everything he won. We can all read about that. There's a lot of them. We could spend an hour talking about what he won, but I want to go a little different direction. Before this, I got on the phone and called a bunch of people that we'd all rodeoed around with and told some Levi stories and things like that. And Todd Soon, another fellow that rodeoed with Levi, reminded me of a story. In '06, Levi and a bunch of us were up in Burley, Idaho, and Gooding, Idaho, and Slack after. Back to back, same times, they're about an hour apart, but they figured they could make it if we had a car and lined up horses and all that. So Slack got going on. Everybody, the whole buddy group threw their steers down and they ran to the car, and no Levi. They wait just a little bit, and Todd's a little higher strung than Levi, and he couldn't wait anymore, and ran back to the rodeo. There's Levi leaning up against the rail, talking to a lady with his hat tipped back, and was an older lady that had ties to Keene and family ties, and they're just having a visit, you know, like he had all the time in the world. Finally, Todd had to physically grab Levi and pull him away, and the whole time he's apologizing, I'm sorry I don't have more time to visit, we'll catch up later, maybe see you next year. Get him in the vehicle, and they make an hour trip in 30 minutes, get there as the bulldogging's starting, jump over the fence, Levi gets on his horse, and we couldn't remember if he won it or won second, but he won money in true Levi fashion. And just laid back, not worried about one thing, and that's the Levi we knew. Never was in a rush, always had time to visit, even when he didn't have time. Almost a frustration. There was a lot of times we were fairly late because of Levi, but he always took time to visit with strangers, friends alike, and that's the Levi we knew. And so stepping forward to this last week, as I was visiting with a bunch of guys we rodeoed with, we're all older. We're all raising kids. Almost everybody I talk to across the country are raising kids now, talking about Levi. And the one thing that kept coming up is, as we were raising our kids, we all want to instill a little bit of Levi in the kids we're raising. And as we got to thinking about that, you know, if there's one thing that stands the test of time, is the fact that he was able to reach across generations. You know, who he was, how he rodeoed, and how he won is why we feel like he deserves a spot in here. Not just what he won, but how he won it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fulton, and I'm very honored to be here to speak on behalf of my boys and my late husband, Brian. Levi came to live with us in 2002, and he lived with us for 6 years. We had a lot of cowboys come and stay a weekend, come to learn for the summer, and there's quite a few of them that came and stayed some years. And Levi was one of them. He first came to one of Brian's bulldogging schools here in Watford City when he was a 7th grader. And then when he graduated from high school, he told his folks that he wanted to come live with Brian, or wanted to go live with Brian. And so Julie told me, they don't know you. You can't just go move in with people and say, I'm gonna. But Levi did. He came and he stayed 6 years, and he left one hell of an impression on my boys and us and all the young guys that lived in the bunkhouse with him. And one of those young guys is here, Bo Brown. Bo, would you stand up, please? Bo was like a brother to Levi. And so one of the biggest things about Levi being so laid back, Brian found it very frustrating to get him fired up to bulldog. I mean, to get him to really bulldog. And Bo was a major help in getting him fired up because they could have a wrestling match out there in the dirt. And Bo was much smaller than Levi, but man, he'd tie into him, and it was the greatest thing because Levi would be ready to bulldog. Levi, I think probably what, one of the greatest things that probably this hall is looking for also, besides a great cowboy, is the great person that he was. We always called him the gentle giant. Brian called him the hard-headed Norwegian. And I think Brian and Levi were a lot alike. And I think they were a lot alike in the fact that Brian had to work real hard, and Levi did too. He, if you look at everything that he did in his life as a young man, he set out. He knew what he was going to do. He had a plan and he had goals. And the ones that he reached in high school, the ones that he reached in college, and he was headed the same direction as being one of the great cowboys also. He was on the bubble that year in 2007 when he was diagnosed with his brain tumor September 27th, had surgery October 3rd, and then he came back that next spring. Actually, he came back in January to live with us. And I mean, he had glasses that were double vision glasses and everything, and he was going to bulldog again. And I mean, that speaks mountains for his tenacity and his determination and still going to reach his goal. And he did. He bulldogged again. And I mean, I just think and I've seen a lot of cowboys come through our place that have done a lot of the same. I mean, one lost an eye bulldogging up here in Mandan and came back and bulldogged again at our house again. But he was really special, and I'll just tell this real quick. I was pregnant with our last son, and I had 4 guys in the bunkhouse, and Brian had gotten snowed out. We had 24 inches of snow. And Bo and Matt were one of them in the bunkhouse with Levi and Trevor. And Bo and Matt wouldn't have anything to do with me. They were scared to death I was going to have that baby. And so Levi was the one guy that kept the tractor fueled, and he plowed a road out for us in case. And so he was such a caring person. He always stayed after everybody ate, and he would help me clear the table. Everybody else had run to the bunkhouse to get control of the remote. Well, they all knew that Levi was going to get control once he got there anyway, so it didn't make much difference. I had put on, and I think of Levi in this same manner. I had put on Brian's headstone that he was a champion cowboy and he was a champion in life. And that's exactly what I think of Levi. If he were here today and had gone on and did what he was going to do, he'd have been a champion cowboy, and he is a champion in life. And I think a lot of that comes from the environment that we're surrounded by. His parents, I mean, wonderful people, great family, but also all of you North Dakota cowboys. I come from Todd County, South Dakota. I grew up in the Badlands of South Dakota, and I lived up here at Watford City for 3.5 years, and I think this state has a lot of good cowboys, as the Dakotas in a whole. But I think Levi is someone that is very deserving to be in your Hall of Fame. Thank you.